Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There live in color and on camera. And today we're a weekly live stream and podcast that is currently focused on Marvel's WandaVision series, which is available to stream globally on Disney+. Now, for today's episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around episode 8, Previously On, as well as elements of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So be warned on that. I'm really pleased, as always, to be joined by a team of superheroes from both sides of the Atlantic. So joining me on this side of the pond, I have movie fan and artist Ryan Way.
Hello.
Welcome, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm very well. It's good to be here.
Good to be here. Now, hopefully this week I'm coming through loud and clear. Yes?
I can hear you.
Good, because we did have some technical issues at the beginning of last week's episode, which I've gone away and improved. So hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, all that, it's going to be plain sailing.
Hey, it's going to be like this, isn't it? We're doing all this. This is how we all talk now. So there's always going to be glitches. There's always going to be gremlins.
Indeed. Gremlins in the system. And talking about gremlins in the system, we have a couple of comic book experts from across the pond. We have comic specialist and film producer Pete and Barbara Mealy. Welcome. Too many E's.
How you guys doing?
Good.
How are
okay?
you?
Good.
How are you this week?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Glad to be here.
Feeling good, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. So we're at the penultimate episode.
Yeah.
So there you go. Only one more week to go. We will make some announcements as to where we're going from here. But for anyone out there watching, I can see there's already a few people watching the live stream. The chat is open. So if you've got any comments, questions, or whatever in this, please get involved in the chat. And we will talk around our normal format, but we will bring you guys into it. If you are here and this is your kind of bag, then please do give the video a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and have a look at some of our other work and content on there. This does also go out as a podcast as well at LSWOT cast, or LSWOT cast, as we're calling it now. Right, Barbara?
Right.
But first of all, as we always do, we're going to have a very brief synopsis of what happened on this week's episode. So previously on.
Okay, so previously on, we open in Salem, 1963, where we see a coven of witches who are attempting to kill Agatha. They're also led by her mother, Evanora, but she drains them of their life force. Back in the present, and Agatha takes Wanda on a journey into her past to try and learn how she is controlling Westview. We see Wanda as a child enjoying old sitcoms with her parents before a Stark Industry bomb destroys their home. We also learn that the Mind Stone seemingly amplified her abilities. After the blip, Wanda tried to retrieve Vision's body from Hayward at Sword to give him a proper burial, but Hayward refuses to give him up. She then drives to Westview and a lot that Vision had bought for them before his death. In a fit of grief, Wanda manifests a house and a version of Vision, while the hex extends across the whole town. Agatha then concludes that Wanda possesses a power called Chaos Magic and dubs her the Scarlet Witch. Meanwhile, Hayward has reactivated Vision's now all-white body.
Ah, nice. And yes, the post-credit scene as well in there. I like it.
Yes, I watched it this week. I thought it pertinent.
Yeah, well, but they did sort of spring it on us last week. We've been used to 11, 12 years of Marvel movies all having a post-credit sequence.
And 12 years of credits as well, yeah. after each episode as well, it felt like. Yes, so like the fact that I wasn't going to watch all of that every time. But I should have probably noticed when the box didn't go small in the corner. signifying the end of it all.
There you go. Well, this week's episode was written by Laura Donney. Laura's credits include Ghosting the Spirit of Christmas, which was in 2019, and WandaVision. So obviously quite new to the industry, but good to see some creative writing going on around this stuff. And the other person I want to mention this week is the visual effects producer, which is James Alexander. Now, obviously, there's a massive team involved in all of the visual effects for this kind of show. But again, James, his credits include Come Swim, which is the visual credits from 2017, and WandaVision. So again, it looks like a whole new generation of people being hired by Kevin Feige to flesh out this universe even more. So I guess that's a good thing, right?
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. But we need to keep both eyes open and look on our left. So are you guys going to tell us about all of the comic connections from this week?
Yeah, so Agatha being a witch, obviously straight from the comics, although the witch trials were 1693, not 1963.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And White Vision, I think, is like the most glaring comic book connection this week. So in the late 80s, a writer and artist for the comics, specifically for Uncanny X-Men and Superman comics, named John Byrne, was hired to do some writing for the Avengers series. And he did not like how human Vision had become in the comics, and that he was a father and married. So he decided to scrap the whole storyline and had Vision kidnapped and disassembled by a future villain, a villain from the future, which there's like a panel in that comic, which I think was like West Coast Avengers 44, 45, where you see Vision like all splayed out on the table and he's just wires and circuits. And it kind of reminded me, where you see that when Wanda's having that flashback of going to reclaim Vision, and he's all like separated out on the tables. So White Vision does exist in the comics, and I don't want to give too much away as usual, but yeah.
I know. I suddenly want to ask loads of questions then, and suddenly realise that's probably not a good thing to do right now.
No, that's really cool though, because I did actually wonder whether White Vision was actually part of the comic mythology. So that's really good to know. Yeah.
Mm.
And did you say that Vision comes back like a bunch of times? He dies and comes back, and there's a lot of iterations.
Yeah, this is that's probably going to come up in my quibbles with this week's episode.
Right. Okay. Cool. Any other specific? Obviously you've talked about connections to the comics all the way through this, so I know you've covered a lot of them. But was there anything else in this week's particular episode apart from White Vision that sort of stood out to you as being a particularly good reference?
Yeah, well, I think two things, right? Agatha, I think she says at one point during the trip down memory lane, like, it's tough love, and that's definitely her mentor mentee student relationship that she, I don't think mentee's a word.
Yeah, mentor and mentee, that's right.
Plural of mentor.
That's definitely what the relationship with Wanda is like. At first, Wanda's not sure what Agatha's intentions are. Agatha does have connections to Nico. So, she's a sort of a gray area character. And then, of course, I think, again, the show is kind of tiptoeing around the possibility of Wanda actually being a villain, and that happens a lot in the comics too. She is like misunderstood. She doesn't have full control of her own powers. She doesn't understand her powers, so she sort of accidentally, she causes chaos and destruction, and that I see happening a lot as well.
Okay, so next season could be called WandaVillain.
Yeah, or we might see her as a villain in next installments of the MCU.
Interesting. Well, do you think that might be? I was going to say, do you think that's possibility that it might lead into? Mind you, that's a prediction. I'm probably jumping ahead. So sorry. I'll shelf
contained.
I'll shelf that one.
Control yourself,
Keith.
Good God.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about connections to the MCU? I noticed there was quite a few, but any in particular, Pete, that you want to point out?
Yeah, so there's tons of connections here, right? As we're really living in the MCU, I think the biggest one is that we get to see Wanda's description that we got from Age of Ultron, right? The reason that Wanda and Pietro were originally fighting the Avengers is because Wanda, her parents were killed by the Stark Industries bomb, and then she and her brother sat there and watched it, just waiting for it to explode until they were rescued. So that, we hadn't, I think, seen that in the movies. We just heard her tell the story, and now we got to see it, albeit in a little bit of a, altered state. We did, referencing back to WandaVision itself, we got to see in the dad's case of DVDs a lot of the shows that we referenced as, this is Mary Tyler Moore, this is Malcolm in the Middle, and all those DVDs were in his case, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, which, to be fair to us, we did actually call that out quite early, didn't we? In our predictions, we said that we think Wanda probably grew up watching those shows, in Sokovia on TV or DVD, as the case turns out. But yeah.
What else was there?
I think there were other things too, that other predictions we had made and said, like, oh, maybe this is a possible connection, like the toaster commercial. You hear that weird ticking, and it's a Stark Industries toaster, and then it's like, oh, yep, that's the bomb that like never went off. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What about you, Ryan? Anything in particular that stood out?
No, not that I remember. Not that we haven't already talked about. I quite like. I know that Pete last week was talking about the kind of the way the Infinity Stones are kind of part of it, part of the fabric of it. And obviously we saw that the witch's power was blue. Agatha is purple. We've got Wanda, who is red. And then I started noticing things that probably weren't there, like the parents' house. When we first see it, it had a kind of a green haze. Obviously we saw the Mind Stone, so it sort of does feel like they are just still connected in some way to this new world that we're watching. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I do sort of feel like I've got a friend who's watching this that isn't actually familiar with the movies.
Okay.
And and I was wondering, how's the show going to work in that instance? But what was kind of nice this week is a lot of the things that were described in like Age of Ultron, for example, in a few lines of dialogue, we actually get to see. So, in this sort of Dickensian style mode of storytelling that they used, we got to actually see these moments in her life rather than just, hear about them in description. And I actually thought that was quite good. I mean, of course, there's sort of the major change as well is the fact that we were always led to believe and assume that Wanda got her. She was part of a Hydra experiment, which ended up giving her the abilities that she has. And we can see that they've sort of debunked that slightly because she had those abilities latent anyway, right? So, but
I don't know, because obviously we saw, because obviously I said in the synopsis, I mean, even though got half that wrong anyway, but I don't know whether did the Mind Stone increase her power? Is that what happened there? And obviously we saw kind of a silhouette of Scarlet Witch, didn't we, when she looked at the Mind Stone?
Yeah, that's how I read it. What about you guys, Pete and Barbara? Is that kind of how you read it?
I don't know. I didn't think they outright confirmed it. I think they sort of hinted a little bit, but I don't think they want to call mutants into the world just yet.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. The way that I read it was that Agatha was like hypothesizing that she was already, special. And that's why she was able to survive the testing when others weren't. But that doesn't really address Pietro, because it's not like we saw Pietro being super fast,
right.
or anything like that.
That's true.
I don't know. I do love the comment, though, from Kip Ellis. And I would have absolutely loved a Fools and Horses episode of WandaVision.
Yeah. Just for our listeners, Kip Ellis has put here, if only Wanda's dad had produced a box full of only Fools and Horses, Are You Being Served, Heidi High, and Dad's Army DVDs. Obviously, great joke for us Brits. But I guess you guys are familiar with these shows over there, yeah?
Well, I know only Fools and Horses. I watched that a bunch. I know of Are You Being Served, but I don't think I ever watched it. And I've never even heard of Heidi High or Dad's Army.
But I wonder what everyone's. I mean, if people want to comment, what would your box of videos look like, or your box of DVDs look like if it was you as a kid? I think mine would probably have those shows, but it would also have, I guess, things like Quantum Leap and Knight Rider. It would have been a very different show.
It would have. And Paul Dulake's put in the comment, I'm thinking, what if it was the Sweeney or Howard's Way? It could have been very different. Cool. All right. Well, I is that it for references, do you think? Back to comics and MCU and any other films? We've talked about the sort of way they've told this story. We've seen it, many times in like a Christmas Carol and whatever, with the Ghost of Christmas Past and all that malarkey. Yeah. So, all right. Well,
it was done well here, though. Thought it was done very well.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to our theories then. So we could do this all day. Well, we can only do it for another week, is the truth of the matter, isn't it? So, what do you think? Theories, hypotheses, speculation.
So, I keep waiting for them to make the reveal that Barbara said is in the comics about the children not being real. And so when Agnes or Agatha had them, on the strings in this episode, I was like, oh, is this when they disappear and she reveals that they aren't really kids? They're just projections. But that didn't happen.
Well, maybe. Yeah, but it might happen next week.
Yeah.
Maybe. So... Any others? I mean, have we got any more thoughts on Hayward?
I think Hayward is Hayward. I'm not convinced there's anything more to him.
Okay.
And if there is, I'm not sure I care.
Oh, we'll come on to that, obviously. Barbara, you've got some thoughts, I can tell.
Yeah, so I actually didn't pick up on it at first. When Monica goes to Sword the first time and Hayward's sort of giving her the tour and stuff. In the comics, it's Sword stands for, hold on, I'm a nerd. I write everything down.
What do you think it is, Keith?
That's the trouble with writing everything down, yeah.
It's the Sentient World Observation and Response Department. And in the show, it's Sentient Weapon Observation. So I do think Hayward, was fiddling around with Vision's body because he wanted to create a weapon so that he can counteract superpowered beings like Wanda or, you know, Iron Man or whatever. It's like always, that's what happens, right? It's escalation and who's got the bigger gun. So I think Hayward is just going to be kind of the annoying bureaucrat who is a fearmonger and, you know, creates problems that way. I did see a still because I basically, after each episode, I spend the weekend like wanting more, and I've been rereading the comics, but also hitting the internet a lot. And so I did see a still of Vision, Wanda, Billy, and Tommy, and they're all in fighting stance.
I saw that.
So I don't think that the boys are going to be revealed to be projections. I think there has to be, like, if it's going to be about Wanda's mental health and her capabilities, there has to be some kind of, like, she has to acknowledge that and in herself, and, you know, there has to be a resolution there before we can move on to, like, what's going to happen with Vision, you know, what happens with the boys, with Agatha. Is there a bigger villain who's like manipulating Wanda either through Agatha or just directly? So I don't think episode 9 is going to be that satisfying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's kind of, I'm sort of thinking, looking at where the MCU is going and where we're going with this phase. I kind of think of it as the 3 M's. So we're going to have magic, multiverse, and mutants.
Very good.
You know, I mean, obviously, I know there's been some magic involved before, but you know, the MCU, when it sort of started, it was very much about technology and science, and then of course we got into alien life and all of that sort of thing. But you know, they've really now invested in this sort of, I know we've had it with you know, Doctor Strange and whatever, but they've really invested in this sort of you know, magic bit to the point that we're seeing, you know, witches being, well, we think they were going to be burnt at the stake, but it turned out to be the coven, didn't it? But yeah,
burning just seems a bit cruel these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also kind of like the way that you know, the Scarlet Witch finally got, you know, named on screen, because of course, you know, Wanda was one of the few exceptions in the MCU where, you know, they hadn't used the comic book alias name. They just sort of subtly hinted it with her wearing sort of, you know, red leather jackets and you know, contemporary clothes. Just, you know, even in this, she's wearing a kind of a red hoodie, isn't she? When she's down there, but
isn't that more? Is that to do with? Was that to do with Scarlet Witch being a Fox property at the time?
I think so.
That's a good question.
Really?
Yeah, because the Scarlet Witch was the X-Men name, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They couldn't say Quicksilver. They couldn't say Scarlet Witch.
That's right, because I know they couldn't say mutants. They had to say miracles in you know, in at the end of Captain America. Winter Soldier, or whichever one it was where we saw them the first time. But yeah, interesting. That's okay. Any other, you know, theories or speculations or anything that you think okay, how long do you think the last episode's going to be? We know there'll be half an hour of credits, but how long do you think the overall episode will be?
I'm hoping we get a full hour.
Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah.
It depends, doesn't it, whether they want to wrap it up or not, or whether we're getting seasons 2, 3, and 4.
They're not going to wrap it up. There's going to be a huge cliffhanger.
You're right.
It's going to be a springboard.
Yeah.
For like seasons 2, 3, whatever.
Season,
but also it's going to be a cliffhanger that then can resolve with Doctor Strange. Loki.
Yeah, definitely.
All of that.
And I also, I'm kind of guessing there might be a kind of an Agatha spin-off, perhaps. I think that might happen. Just got a funny feeling, but we'll see. And then it'll be more like, you know, that will sort of scratch that charmed itch that I'm sure a lot of fans have.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. Apart from that post-credit sting that we got, there really wasn't anything outside of the Hex this week.
No, I missed it. Is that too early to say? Do I need to wait for a section?
In fact, I think we're moving on, aren't we? I think we're there. Okay. Let's assemble and talk about our thoughts and feelings.
I do have one more prediction.
Oh, go for it.
Could be a happy one. It's so convoluted. The reading the comics, I was telling our daughter earlier that it's frustrating because there's so much text in the comics. It's like the descriptive, setting the scene, and then also all the dialogue between the characters. So you want, in a sense, like I think I've gotten used to reading books or watching other types of like self-contained movies or TV shows. So things are told in a very linear way. But in the comics, it's always like, okay, Wanda and Vision moved to their house in New Jersey, and they just want to be a happy, normal couple. But then, no, the spirit of Halloween attacks them, and they get separated. And during the fight, it references like something that happened in like a totally different comic series. Episode, or what do you call it? Issue like 150 something. So, it's been kind of challenging for me to be rereading the comics, and I've been like jumping around a lot to see what parts they're actually pulling into the show. But one of the things that happens in the comics is when White Vision shows up, and he has no memories, he has no emotional connection to Wanda, so he's basically fully a robot, not a synthezoid.
So that was going to be my question.
But Vision survives because that thing where like the same person can't occupy the same time and space simultaneously. So when White Vision shows up, Vision gets bumped into a multiverse. There's a multiverse again.
There it is.
There we go.
But it could be an opportunity for Vision to live outside of the Hex, because in the comics, Wanda fuses Vision and White Vision, and then so he's physically restored, he's mentally restored. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of answered that question about that we had in a couple of episodes back, where Vision was trying to get outside of the Hex and he couldn't. And it's because he is also a construct of what Wanda's created in there, right? So
it's weird, right? Because didn't in one episode they say Wanda stole his body and brought it in there, but then we know that
well, this is what Hayward tells them at the briefing, isn't it?
So he's trying to manipulate them.
We see what Hayward actually saw. So maybe he was trying to manipulate the people that were in the briefing, bearing in mind that also included Darcy and Monica and all of those guys, and Jimmy. They were all in that briefing, weren't they? So
they're Wanda sympathizers. Hayward saying, "I have Project Cataract almost online." He's not going to get any support. So
yeah, exactly. Look, guys, in the live stream, what do you think? What are your predictions? Please put it in the chat, and I'll obviously get to it and bring it up in this episode. But obviously, in the meantime, we're going to move into our next section, which is where we talk about our own thoughts, our nitpicks, and just generally where we were with tonight's episode. So who wants to go first?
Well, I have a natural springboard, since
go on then.
We were talking about Hayward, right? So I think Darcy says in an earlier episode that Hayward, part of Project Cataract, is he's tracking the signal of decaying is it vibranium. But if Wanda didn't take Vision's body, then like what is that? Like that doesn't line up.
Good point. So intentional or a mistake?
can't be a mistake, surely.
It's not usually the kind of thing that Marvel has a problem with, right?
Maybe.
Pete would love to argue.
No, I think the I think if you look at all of the Marvel movies in chronological order, some of the Infinity Stones timelines don't quite make sense.
Okay.
Specifically, the Tesseract, I think, is pretty funky. Bouncing around World War II.
Yeah, I'm using that more. Carry on. Sorry.
It's funky. It doesn't quite line up. Yeah, that one worries me. And so I don't know, but it's really weird that they put it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, timeline is always something that I'm particularly fussy about. So, yeah, I love it if you point out those. Come on, Pete, you've done enough Star Trek episodes with me over the last year to know that that I'm fussy about timeline continuity. So bring it up. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's something that, like, if I had, unlimited time, I would make a flow chart of where the Infinity Stones are in the Marvel Universe movies. And
please do that.
I bet one
because I really want you to. I'm picturing you now like Carrie in Homeland. Stuff all over the walls,
strings everywhere.
Maybe less blonde, but I'd love that.
Yeah, because it's fun. Like, I don't get it sometimes. With also the other, I'm going way off on a tangent here, but I often get the Mind and the Soul Stone confused because one's yellow and one's orange, and then also, the Mind Stone is in the Scepter, which is blue, and also the Tesseract is blue, and so I get them confused.
No, I do as well, for exactly the same reasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're that's normal. I think there's a lot of material here to dig through. So somebody's got to be keeping track of that. Hopefully at the Marvel end, but. What about you, Ryan? How are you feeling about all of this? Where are you at with it?
I really fluctuate. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy it every week. I do fluctuate a bit. I know that the beginning of this episode felt more like, and you can take this in a good way or bad way, but I felt like I was watching like an old Buffy episode, which was fine, I guess. But I think Keith, you've said it before. I do like the stuff outside the hex, and I like that mixture of the two. So even though this episode was great, and I really loved seeing a lot of, as we've discussed, a lot of Wanda's backstory, I thought that was fantastic, and I thought the child actors were very good. I thought, particularly the young Wanda was very strong. It was a really good performance. But I missed Vision. I always miss Darcy. I miss her now, but I missed that, and but yeah, I'm not sure where it's going, but I think if I can go off on one a bit, but I felt that there was a lot of stuff happening, and I don't know whether they were meant to be these big reveals or we're just really good at predicting stuff, but it kind of felt like, oh no, she manifested all of it. Yeah, didn't we know that? I thought we knew that. But I had that feeling of, I don't feel like that's a reveal. I feel like we knew that already.
Well,
it didn't feel, not that we knew it, but I feel like we predicted a lot of the stuff that happened from the beginning.
Oh, we did, because we're so good.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is. It's just we're so good at it.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I don't think that's going off on one at all. I think you make a very fair
point. I thoroughly enjoy it. I do like, I may be a little bit too set in my ways. I do like the kind of real world stuff that goes on. But so far, I think they've blended the two actually really well. So I'm excited to see a bit more of the outside world again. But I think the blending of the two things has been quite strong actually.
And when are you going to start the podcast doting on Darcy? Is that on the way?
Well, I didn't want to tell you. It's been going for years. My mum.
I missed her this week. Actually, I did miss her this week.
I just missed the outside. I missed all. I mean, that was why the end of the end credit sequence was great. I was like, oh yeah, another sort of window into what's gonna happen. Because when you're kind of in the hex, it's like all of that stuff that was happening we have already discussed, and we kind of knew that was happening. So it was so once we went to the outside with the end credit scene, it was like, right, now that's, it's obviously to build to the last episode, but it was like, right, now it's getting real.
Yeah, we were right about so much. No, I'm just
though.
I mean, Barbara, how I know that you'd said quite early on one of our earliest episodes about House of M and sort of similarities. I need to know, because I don't know those comics. How close is what's happened so far?
It's not really following a whole storyline in its entirety. I think that Marvel has been really good at creating backstories and interesting situations, and then whenever they there's a potential for a big storytelling moment, I think they have been successful at this happened in the comics, and that could be a really cool vehicle to move forward several things, not just one thing, so yeah, and I mentioned that already. It's definitely an old-fashioned, you say you fall down an internet hole. The comics are totally well, I'm reading on my Kindle, so not paper and ink, but
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I read these couple of issues that Vision and Wanda are in, but then something gets referenced, I have to go find another issue, and it's not in any kind of linear chronological order. So but it's really neat to see it. It's like this new world, or like a retelling coming together.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, is what what the MCU and what Feige's kind of done with the whole thing anyway, isn't it? It's always kind of taken characters and plot situations and some iconography and whatever from the comics, but done their own sort of spin on it. And and you're absolutely right about the rabbit hole thing as well, because our guest last week, Ryan Airy from Screen Crush, which is Screen Crush, not Scrush. That was my internet, by the way. But yeah, Ryan Airy from Screen Crush. He's got loads of theory videos about all sorts of aspects of this and how it branches to comics and what it could lead to. And you can literally spend a day on YouTube going down these rabbit holes if you're not careful, right?
Or several weekends.
Several weekends. Yeah. Exactly.
But such is the madness of it, though, is that if they did an episode that was actually inside the rabbit's head that we saw this weekend, I'd watch it. This week's entirely from the perspective of the rabbit. You'd be like, that was cool, wasn't it?
We'll see if they only see sideways or whether it's a head.
Yeah. And did he eat an insect? Sorry, because I know she had the bird, and then the bird turned into an insect. That was very quick. That rabbit was fast.
It was.
Maybe it makes me think that it's not really a rabbit.
Yeah, maybe it's Quicksilver, right? Who knows? Kip Ellis has actually put, here in the comments, I think you're right. Color vision will merge into white vision to become one vision. Oh, I like it. Not the Queen's song. I love it. And we still have the teased cameo to come. Who is that? Oh, that's a really good question, Kip. Yeah, cameo. Who do we think this? Paul Bettany has hinted that there's going to be somebody else before the end of the season coming. Now, I've got my thoughts, but what do you guys think?
I would guess it would be Doctor Strange. I don't know, just off the bat.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, I think so.
What about you guys?
You got
we've been saying Doctor Strange all along, but that's another thing that I saw. That Paul Bettany saying it was an opportunity to work with an actor he's always wanted to be on screen with, but like,
Oh.
so cheeky. I was referring to myself. So it's like if there's gonna be a Vision meets Vision.
Ah, yes, I like that theory.
Which I think is unfair, but
yeah.
I've always wanted to act with myself. Yeah.
Shut up! I wasn't trying to do a British accent.
Go on, what's Pete doing? What?
Oh, yeah, go on. I want to hear a British accent.
I know. I made fun of Barbara's Paul Bettany accent. That's all.
Oh, well, you know, so do we. Don't worry about it.
It wasn't really Paul
He's
Bettany.
very Queen's English, isn't he, Paul Bettany?
He is. Yeah, he's been very good in this. Last week, because of my technical issues and because we had Ryan on, and I wanted, you know, obviously to let him speak more. One of my problems, or one of the things I was underwhelmed with, I know I'm going back to last week's episode, but I really wondered what you guys thought about this. I was a little bit, you know, this whole Monica had hinted for a couple of episodes that we were going to meet this astrophysicist that was, you know, that she had some pull with and all of this sort of thing. That, if that was indeed the reveal in last week's episode, I don't know about you, but I was somewhat underwhelmed by that. I think I was expecting that to be a big sort of major Marvel character. Was that just me expecting too much, or did you guys feel that?
No, I thought it did seem like they were leading up to a guest appearance of a bigger character, but then like the car showed up, right, and it didn't even make it through the hex. So
yeah, that was so disappointing.
A failed attempt.
Yeah, and apparently that forgive me, I can't remember either the actress's name or the character name. I should have written that down, Barbara. There you go. I should have written it down. Yeah. But you know, my understanding is that character wasn't a character from the comics anyway. It's just some random you know, military character that they made up for the episode. Is that right? So it wasn't anyone.
I didn't think that the military woman that Monica meets and talks to, I don't think that was supposed to be the astrophysicist that she was hinting at.
Okay, so that might still be to come then, potentially.
Hopefully, yeah.
Good. Okay, because I was wondering about that. I wanted to bring it up last week, but as I said, because you were hearing about every other word, I thought that's way too difficult to try and get into. So I was going to ask Ryan about it actually, but whether he had thoughts. But the other Ryan, sorry, Ryan, it gets confusing.
Yeah, it's always the other Ryan.
No, it's not.
Let's ask this, Ryan. Ryan, what were your thoughts?
I thought, nah.
Wow.
Okay. That's how I generally think. That's what I generally think about everything.
No, you don't. You're being hard on yourself, Ryan.
No, I'm just making noises.
I feel like I need to credit the actress. I'm just quickly trying
You're IMDbing, aren't you?
I am, because I
thought this stuff was all in your head.
I'm very particular about giving people credit. I don't know whether you've noticed that about me, but that is one of my things. I always feel that people should get the credit they deserve, and of course I can't find who it is.
You IMDb. I'm going to check the football scores. You just hold on.
It was okay. It was the character was Major Goodner, played by Rachel Thompson.
Okay.
So there you go. I didn't want to, as I said, just that person, blah blah blah. It always seems a bit disrespectful. So yes, that's who it was. I feel better now. There you go.
Well, she should be more famous.
Oh dear, don't say that. I certainly can't say that. But yeah, okay. Any other thoughts or feelings?
I was waiting for the second post-credit scene where it's just like a train going in front of Darcy, who's still in the truck, waiting to get past that.
Oh my god!
Yes.
That would have actually been.
That would have been hilarious. Yeah, that would have been really good.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did think, like you said, Ryan, it was a little bit of a Buffy episode, you know, sort of mixed with what's it called? Christmas Carol, you know, like a real trope of digging through these memories, you know, to figure it out. But it kind of worked because they had Catherine Hahn having Agnes talking through sort of what we saw and what we were trying to figure out at the same time. But there's still a lot of stuff that's to come, and there's still a lot to go through. So I think that we need to be cautious about where we set our sights for next week, because I think there's too much for it to all get resolved.
It's very true.
I think that we have to, you know, not expect it to all get resolved. We have to just go on the journey, because I think maybe this might be a real change in storytelling, right? Or a new way of storytelling, where it's kind of like the Walking Dead comic, right? Where they said the Walking Dead comic was not supposed to be a story arc with a beginning and an end. It was just ongoing. Right. And so that sort of shift in storytelling might be what they're doing here too, where there's less of an arc and more of an ongoing. And
like the sort of MCU are doing. I mean, here's the big question, guys, and this is this going to stick the landing, do you think?
Well, that's what I was trying to say. I don't think there's any landing. I don't think there's any end.
I think you might be right.
So it's not going to be a one and done. It's going to be
there's not going to be a big showstopper number, right? There's no big fight at the end of this. There's There's not that scene where, you know, they bring out Zack Snyder and they tear up a bunch of concrete and stuff blows up, right? It's gonna be a long haul.
Yeah, I think it's about right. So yeah,
do we all agree
I do like that kind of lower your expectations for that finale. It's like, yeah,
absolutely.
I'm watching Lost. I'm watching Lost.
Any guys out there in the live stream, if you've got your thoughts on you know, the ending and where this is going, please put it in the chat. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what people think about that.
Can I also just thank Kip in the comments, who just let me know the score in the Liverpool game. Thanks, Kip. That was actually very useful.
We're that entertaining. Okay. Kip is actually asking a question as well. He has put, after next week, are you fine folks going to cover Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when that airs, which I believe airs 2 or 3 weeks after this is finished? So good question. We have been sort of talking about that offline, and I don't know whether we've actually come up with an answer for that yet. Pete's laughing. What Pete? Tell me.
No, this is me smiling with excitement, because I would love.
Hey, I've got my Captain America shield pin badge on, along with my Avengers and shield badge. There you go. For you people listening that can't see.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I have a question about that. Is the Falcon and Winter Soldier, is that based on any sort of existing comic, or is this just a whole new thing?
I have to ask my brother, because as soon as things get really military, I'm out.
That's fair.
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. It's quite possible there's so much material out there.
I think they did have a pair-up run, because or at the very least in the past year, they've been putting them out or re-putting them out, because I get them in our comic book shop, sends the list of new arrivals, and I've been seeing them publicized, but we haven't bought them or read them.
Okay, well, let me ask you guys, while we're on that subject, what is your appetite for Falcon and Winter Soldier? How are you guys feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm ready to take a big bite out of Sebastian Stan, and and what's
oh yeah,
Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie, that's right. Yeah.
That's going to be a whole new live stream.
What about you, Ryan?
I got 2 Army Hammer.
Oh dear.
I'll get that arm. I don't. Do you know what? I don't know. I'm going to be shot down in flames probably, but they're not two of my favorite characters. They're not characters that I've ever really cared that much about. But that said, that this might be a good opportunity to learn a bit more about those characters. So, you know, I'm always going to watch any Marvel content. So yeah, I'm excited.
How have you not cared about Falcon and Winter Soldier? Like, did you not see Captain America Winter Soldier?
I did.
They were the two best characters in that movie.
Yeah,
I guess.
That one's actually one. Yeah. No, but that's one of my favorite movies, actually, for of the MCU. I thought Captain America: Winter Soldier was excellent.
Captain America: Winter Soldier is so good. Also, the two of them have great interactions in Civil War.
Yes, Civil War is another good one.
Yeah. I like those small doses.
So predictable.
What was so predictable?
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it was basically Marvel doing a Bourne movie, which is a good thing.
Oh, I don't have an enemy. Oh no, it's my best friend. Like, really?
It's really good.
Next.
It's really good. I have no problem with that film. Listen, I really enjoyed that film, but I watched it for America's ass.
Yeah.
As did we all, Ryan.
So we need to sort of mix that with Darcy somehow, don't we? Never mind. Anyway, Darcy and the Cap.
I still miss Darcy.
America's Darcy.
America's Darcy, indeed.
There you go.
Well, Lake's commented that there are so many permutations for the story to go, which is very true indeed. Very true indeed.
And I have to say that this was my other sort of major quibble with this episode. And, you know, in reading the comics again, Wanda and Vision are always touted throughout the comics as two of the most overpowered beings in existence. But they constantly fall prey to outside manipulation. They just never seem to get on the defense about that. Like, I think Magneto, for example, is super powerful, and his powers keep growing and changing in the comics, but he often goes on the defensive. I mean, you know, to the detriment of humanity, but at least he is like owning, you know, that's a consequence of having a lot of power. You have a target painted on your head. And so Wanda, I really hope that she and Vision both in the MCU take on some agency and like, you know, really embrace their powers. I'm not into, you know, characters that just like, oh no, why do these things keep happening to me? You know, and then they're reactive instead of like becoming fully themselves. So Paul Dulake's comment, so many permutations for story to go. I hope that's something we see happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. And then the other thing I want us to touch briefly on as well is, so what are our thoughts then about, you know, it's revealed fake Pietro. Obviously there'd been so much questions and speculation around that. They did address what you brought up, Pete, a few weeks back, was, you know, when she saw him dead, why was it still Evan Peters and not Aaron Taylor Johnson? And she did sort of say about the whole fact that he not only was he dead, but he was on another continent and full of holes. You know, that she Agnes kind of, or Agatha kind of brings that up.
Agnesitha.
Well, we also learned that because it wasn't Vision's actual body that she saw either, right? Because his actual body wasn't in there. Then it was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
I still think that was a bit confusing.
But Evan Peters' Quicksilver hasn't died.
But like Evan Peters' Quicksilver is like saying, you know, it's like Superman. It's a totally different thing, totally different franchise.
But here's the thing, right? Here's the question I have: is that purely a piece of stunt casting by Marvel, or is this some sort of, you know, multiverse crossover with the X-Men franchise? I mean, this is the question that's been bouncing around.
Yeah.
And I said last week, whether it came out or not, that I was beginning to think that it was a bit of stunt casting.
Yeah.
Which actually seems a bit like a bit of a cheap shot in some ways. But what do you guys think?
Well, this week I kind of read it more as she's from a different universe, as in Agatha, and in her universe that is what he looks like. So it was kind of a mistake.
Where did you get that from?
It's just how I read it. It's just because she said, because she was like, that was you, and she kind of hinted, she said something like, she hinted that, yeah, that was a mistake, something she said. I'd have to go back and watch that.
She called him Pietro.
Yeah, because I didn't get that impression at all. I got the impression that Agatha was drawn to this town because of all the magic, right? But she's from this world.
Okay.
And that it was just sort of stunt casting for the fans, because, you know, the Pietro that we saw, the Quicksilver that we saw, was just a projection that Agnes brought into the world. To toy with Wanda, right? To try to figure out what's going on. And that's why Wanda was questioning Pietro in that one episode. And so, you know, that's why she asked, like, you don't look the same, right? Or what happened to your accent? It's because that's not Quicksilver. That wasn't supposed to be Quicksilver or her brother Pietro. It was just something that was, you know, made up.
I sort of think that, but in part of telling the story, if she really wanted to get information out of Wanda, she would look like her Pietro, wouldn't she? Like, that's how you would get information, because there was always going to be a disconnect. If she wants to get information, don't make her brother look like someone else, because that's going to make her not trust.
Yeah, but how would she know what he looks like?
Was it not on the news?
How would Agatha know what Pietro looks like, right? Pietro was never on the world stage.
Yeah.
I don't know. News cameras. There were cameras there, weren't there? Because they showed them all of the stuff going on.
Yeah, no, I have to admit that whole,
I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether there is more to this than meets the eye. I did also like you mentioned about the accent, and they did call her out and self-reference about the accent, didn't they? Which has always been a thing that's bothered a lot of fans, but you know, between the films. So, but yeah, Elizabeth Olsen's doing a good job, I think.
Yeah,
cool.
I think she's doing an amazing job.
All right. Well, any other? We're approaching the hour here. Any other sort of final thoughts or anything that you wanna touch on or discuss before we talk about competitions and stuff?
Let's just hold on to our seats, because it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I'm excited for the final episode. I think it's going to be good. No, I do agree, but I do agree with Pete. I don't think it's going to quite match our expectations. So I think that's a good tip.
It's going to be about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's sort of great for this week then. Really appreciate everybody as well that's been getting involved in the live stream and watching us live and putting comments in the chat. I really appreciate that. I do need to say, Ryan Airy last week gave a couple of questions for our giveaway. We've had a few responses to it. I've hidden them. I found out that I'm able to hide comments on YouTube, which
so people don't steal the answer.
Which is good. Exactly. So the answer's sealed. Interestingly, most of the comments that have come in so far have been for the more difficult question of the two, which is for the limited edition STEELBOOK. Obviously, the version we're giving away is sealed, but it's a STEELBOOK version of Blade on 4K. You get the DVD and the 4K. Sorry, you get the Blu-ray and the 4K. They'll play anywhere because they're region free. You also get the STEELBOOK, a mini poster, and some art cards along with this exclusive slipcase.
Nice.
But not only that, we've also got a sealed version of the regular 4K. Again, discs are the same, so it's the Blu-ray and the 4K UHD discs, filled with special features. If you want an in-depth thing, check out my video review of this, where I go into that in some depth, as well as an unboxing of the STEELBOOK on the channel. So the questions, they are in the show notes below. The questions to win either. That's all explained. So please answer in the comments below. And what we're going to do, as next week is the last episode, we're going to announce both sets of winners next week on that episode. As I said, there's a slightly easier sci-fi question for the regular edition of Blade, and a more complicated Blade comics related question for the limited edition STEELBOOK. So please do enter. There's a whole week. Spread the word. And as I said, we'll make the announcements next week, and then get the details off of the individuals who have won and send it to you. So there you go. Giving something away. We'll also have some more information next week as to where we're going as a live stream and as a podcast following that. Kip Ellis has just put a nice, great stream, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.
And you, Kip. And you.
Obviously, this is available as a podcast on all good podcasting apps. If you go to LSWOT Cast or LSWOT Cast or whatever you want to call it, you can also get in touch directly, lswotcast@gmail.com, if you've got any questions for us. But in the meantime, guys, where can people find you if they want to get in touch? Pete and Barbara.
I'm on Twitter at Too Many E's, TOOMANYEES. Thank you.
I'm on Twitter at B McNeely, and on the LSWOT Twitter and Instagram.
And Ryan, where can people see your excellent work?
I'm on Instagram, Ryan Holloway Artist. I think I'm back on Twitter after a hiatus, at Artist Holloway. I think I'm there. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got some Marvel related prints in there, right? From your art collection.
Have I?
I thought you had a particular. Does this ring any bells?
Yes. Yes, sorry. Yeah, I do. There is a print, and I think the original available of a Captain Marvel painting. So check that out.
There you go. Please check it out, folks. It's really good. If you want to check out any of my other work, if you go to YouTube and put in British Isles, that's EYLES, as in my last name. There's some short films that I've made on there. Any feedback, welcome. It's always good or bad. Want to hear about it. Obviously, you found Home Media Minefield if you're here, so please check out the videos, unboxings, reviews, previous live streams, etc. And that just leaves me to thank you all, and we will see you on the next.
Let's see what's out there.
We'll get it right one day. Oh, look, there's the picture now. Actually, no good for our podcast listeners, but Pete has put up on his phone a picture of some of Ryan's excellent artwork there.
Thank you very much, Pete. I'd forgotten I'd done that.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
work.
it's great.
A lovely Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, right?
Yeah.
Brie Larson.
One of my faves.
You don't have any Darcy work?
Not yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Oh. Anyway,
that's taking far too long.
Next week.
Yeah. You got to actualize that dream.
Yeah, she's on the mood board. It's fine.
We need a Darcy. We need a Darcy picture. Anyway, folks, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
See you next time.
Everybody.